afternoon, everybody, and you're very welcome to this episode of Adam's Slideshow. Today, I'm going to be presenting a slideshow on my personal and professional development since becoming an outdoor industry professional, or my journey there on forward. My name is Adam O'Farrell, and you're very welcome here this morning. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, just a quick introduction, I suppose. In my experience as an outdoor professional, it is paramount that an outdoor instructor demonstrates evidence of personal growth in terms of each individual sport and how they plan to develop themselves as a professional. Because let's face it, if it's your career, it's important to you, and it never stops when you go home. So you always got to keep development, personal and professional, in mind. Important to this, I was going to say probably the most important. However, each aspect has its own importance. Time management being one of the utmost important, because without time management, how are we going to know or schedule to get anything done? So I have it divided into how I like to approach things, which is monthly, daily, weekly plan and control measures. So the plan and control measures are how you would go about tackling time management in a personal and professional setting. And like I said at the beginning, they are both as intertwined as each other when you're a professional, because that's your career. So one of the most important skills to have as a professional is time management. And you need to keep on top of it for a positive work-life balance. We don't want to get burnt out. The mindset of a professional needs to pay attention to time management. And you need to make sure you're not going to get burnt out, like I previously said, and that's in regards to delivering whatever sport in respect of working with a group you're delivering. So you need to make sure that you're not burnt out, so you can then be the best you can be to deliver what it is you're delivering. When I'm breaking things down, like I said, we go monthly, daily, weekly, and control measures. So things to take into consideration are what you're doing on that day. So that's monthly. You need to lay out your days throughout the month, so you're not double booking yourself or things like that. And do you need anything specially prepared that's off script or off your daily working schedule? And then going forward to daily, what time do you finish and start? Because you need to be there before the group and after the group to get everything ready for the next day. So that's linking back in with the monthly. If you have 3 canoe or kayak or water sessions back to back, you need to have the gear ready for the next day. And going to weekly, are you prepared for your personal living requirements? And that's going back to the work-life balance. You need to have a positive work-life balance. And that's easier for me personally to control over a weekly review, because you get to the end of the week or to the start of the week, you're like, cool, what have I set out previously for myself throughout the month? And then that breaks down into your weekly schedule. And I carry a book around with myself, my big book of notions, as I like to call it, and that carries my daily, weekly, monthly schedule. Control measures that I like to implement for myself, and I recommend to others, is the buddy system and checking in with friends and family. Having your support system personally helps you to grow as a professional, especially when your friends understand what it is you're doing, and when you have industry professionals as friends. Diary, I previously mentioned, alarms are a big one. If you don't wake up in the morning, or you're not good at waking up in the morning, you're not going to be prepared. You can have all the preparation in the world ready, but if you don't wake up there on the day to get your work done, there's no point in having the preparation. And then scheduling, like we talked about previously. Moving on from time management, we have goal setting. So this is kind of taking a delve into what's involved in the crossover between personal and professional. I suppose this is getting closer to that, because you need to have intrinsic motivation inside you, and by goal setting, using a schedule, monthly, weekly and daily, it can allow you to achieve that goal. Breaking down larger goals into smaller achievable chunks, smaller goals, is key to this. If you look at something like a big mountain, you're never going to get up it. A lot of us suffer with that. It can really prolong the task paralysis to achieving something. So breaking stuff down into smaller chunks is definitely a big, I suppose, tool in the toolbox for dealing with goal setting. How feasible and realistic is your goal? And again, that goes back to breaking it down. You need to break it down into realistic chunks. Take into consideration your personal and professional situation. If you have personal commitments or a personal situation that is going to impact you currently and get in the way, or not necessarily in the way, they will cross over with each other, you need to take them into consideration. Because if you're training hard for a personal expedition that's going to, bring your professional side of things up to a higher level, but you have a personal situation at home that you need to attend to, you need to balance that, and that's again going back to work-life balance. We talked about intrinsic motivation. You need to foster that internal flame that drives you when it comes to personal, professional development, friendships, everything, and as well realise that you need breaks. The climb and plateau of learning is something that I like to refer to, and it's a concept that I've come up with myself. Whenever you're trying to achieve a goal, you inevitably tend to hit a plateau where you're comfortable in that goal. I've just become rock climbing instructor recently, and I now feel like I'm on that plateau, whereas before I was coming up to the plateau, so it was an uphill struggle. And now I want to go on to my next qualification. So I need to look at going uphill again and getting out of that comfort zone of the plateau. We can't get anything done without money. And I coloured it in green because, we all love the green stuff. But as an industry professional in the outdoors, it is both my passion and what I use to make a living. We cannot work if we don't live, and we cannot live if we don't work. So, yeah, and play hard as well. That comes from the intrinsic passion inside of us. We don't do this because it's the job and we like sitting in an office. We do it because we like getting out, and we convince ourselves that when it's raining in our face and hailstones that we're having fun. But yeah, so budgeting, you need to consider, again, this is where a crossover happens. So if you don't consider your personal living situation, like your rent, utilities, groceries, clothing can go into that. However, as a professional in the outdoors, clothing can extend into PPE, such as dry suits and harnesses and stuff like that. Medical expenses are a big one that a lot of us tend to forget about, and a lot of injuries can be lessened or avoided completely if we just stretch. And I'm terrible at that, which has incurred a fair few medical expenses, which I have learned, and now I incorporate stretching into my daily routine. And insurance and transport. A lot of the sports that we like to do tend to be out there, shall we say. There's not necessarily transport towards them, so yeah, maintain the balance, I suppose. But there are just some considerations to budgeting. Delegation. Delegation, in the respect of this slideshow, is phrased as when you're working with a team, and I have written it as my view of working with a team and being a strong group member, or possibly a leader. So one of the key aspects of a leader includes delegation, just up there. And it's important to know the team you have and the situations that you'll be working in. If you're going in blind to work with a group with a team you've never worked with, it's not a great, you're not setting yourself up positively for success. You need to have that confidence as the person in charge or as a team member to rely on your work colleagues. The cohesiveness of the team is important. Again, that goes back to knowing each other. If it's a new team, you can meet up the day before and have a cup of tea. If they're new colleagues that you haven't met before in the same company, go for it. Sit down with them, chat to them, see what they're about, see where their skills are at. The process of delegation can be a good opportunity to build someone's confidence with trust in them and the task at hand, especially when it comes to clients and a group. Many people use delegation to pass off work to others. I've witnessed this personally. The proactive leader understands that it is a useful tool to tackle aspects like group cohesion and personal confidence of your group members, and that extends as well to working with a team of instructors that you may have to work with a group. If you're giving someone a task to do, it shows that you trust them, and that helps towards your time management as well. So it's your kind of going down to daily, if you're working with a group and you're giving someone a rope to flake and they don't know how to flake a rope, you can get one of your assistant instructors to show them, not something else that you don't have to worry about. So little things like that to consider. Working with people, we inevitably come across conflict. So how do we manage that? As an instructor, managing groups will inevitably, you'll inevitably encounter conflict. How do we deal with it? The ability to calm groups down is an invaluable skill. And that comes from experience working with people as much as it does understanding how conflicts work. I myself have grown up in youth clubs as a young person, going forward to being a scout leader and stuff like that in scouts, and now I'm an instructor in many different disciplines. Each discipline has its own individual aspects to creating a situation where tensions can grow within a group. You always want to aim to diffuse the situation. If there are two arguing members of a party, the best thing to do is probably to separate them, hear each other out, don't treat anybody with preferential treatment, and see if you can find a compromise or a solution to the problem, because generally it's in our situation. Someone's cold, someone's hungry, and someone said something wrong or looked at someone the wrong way, and it was perceived as hostile. So that tends to be easily avoidable and fixable with sitting down and putting on a Kelly kettle and having a cup of tea and getting people warm and comfortable and talking again. And this also allows a place for personal growth with groups, especially young people. It can be a great opportunity for learning for them. And I like to foster those situations, and once tensions have died down, maybe reflect back on it that evening and say, well, how did you feel and how did we get over that? And then future conflicts tend to be lessened because people understand how they react, how their friend reacts, and we can use it as a learning experience and continue developing. Critical reflection on personal feedback. Somewhat similar to what I was just talking about there with conflict management. It can be disheartening to receive feedback of a critical nature, but always remember that this is an opportunity to reflect on your current practices. And this has happened to me as a professional, as a friend, as a family member. There's been ways I've approached situations that haven't been ideal, they've been less than ideal, and they've actually, created a conflict. So we want to use them learning experiences to critically reflect and use criticism from friends and colleagues to explore how else you could have approached that situation and what your internal feelings were towards it. Always ask yourself, how can I improve? Because when you're on the side of a mountain in the snow, shivering, it can be tough. But if you always ask yourself that question, how can I improve, or how am I doing here? You are critically reflecting. Taking a step away from the flow of the slideshow, I suppose, and we're taking a step into my personal planning and how I approach that. And recapping on pay attention to time, resources, opportunity, and current health, which we have just chatted and touched on. You always need to take these things into consideration when you're planning your personal life. My plan for my professional development has differed majorly over the last few years, and from researching everything from the last few assignments to the slideshow has really shown me that I need to consider and get a cohesive view in my own internal practices to holding professional life in one hand and personal life in the other, and making sure they intermingle in a positive way. Like I said, my plan has varied vastly over the last 2 years, and even over the last 6 years since I've become an industry professional. I originally wanted to be a soldier, and now I want to be an educator. With personal planning, just always take a step back and consider, how is this going to affect the aspects of my life, and try and set yourself up for success in regards to your professional one. Growth, personal and professionally. Over the last years, I have come closer to starting my own business. I'm actually considering it now, and I would like to manage a team of cohesive colleagues and see if we can deliver educational programs to young people, because me myself came from Ballymun, didn't know the outdoors was an option as a career. Went on a school trip to Achill, met an instructor there, and he done the Shackleton course, and here I am now 6 years later. I'll eventually get out of college. Yeah. I've renewed many qualifications from coming back to college this year, and I've had new and positive experiences that have realised many of the opportunities I would have otherwise missed. And that, I'm smiling now, and I'm kind of getting an internal feeling of, I suppose, pride and connection with my peers in my year group. I've felt the most accepted this year in college, and that's from me working personally internally. And yeah, like I said previously, make sure the cohesion in your own life continues. But yeah, I've had lots of opportunities, and that's from, I suppose, going to Wales with college to doing individual qualifications, and it's super cool. It's super cool. Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Emily.
So, in relating it more back to you in your personal plan, where do you want to end up working?
I suppose, Emily, to answer your question, the goal currently is I have a job lined up in Crosscare. And that is, as I like to call it, my first big boy job. And it has a starting salary of 36,500. First time I've ever got an offer of a job with a salary that wasn't more than 3 months long.
Yeah.
And that's going to allow me to budget, have a forecastable income. I have training opportunities with that job to upskill.
Cool.
The team is really cohesive. I actually know some of the team members before. And somewhat similar to how I want to approach my own business when I set it up, is they work with young people in disadvantaged areas. And that's something I'm really passionate about. So with the training opportunities to pay, the cohesive team environment, the only thing I really need to focus on there is how my personal life is going to interact with that.
Yeah.
But I'm actually really looking forward to that opportunity. But definitely at some point, I'm not sure how long, I'm giving myself 6 months definitely in Crosscare. Forecasting 1 year in the job. After that, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take stock of my situation and see if it's better for me to leave Crosscare. Maybe see if I can work part-time, look for a different job. Maybe I might travel. But I am definitely passionate about starting my own business. So that is definitely going to be ticking away in the background. And we'll see where I end up with that.
Okay. And the business you want to start up, you want it to be quite a similar help that Crosscare would help?
Yeah. Similar to that. It would be primarily focused on working with disadvantaged young people.
Okay.
And giving them the opportunity to realise that there is empowerment in the outdoors. Yeah.
And as of today, with all the experience and qualifications you've gained so far, what do you think will help you the most with what you have now and what you might want to get?
Could you ask me that question?
So, with today, with all the experience we've had through Shackleton
To date.
and
Okay.
to date,
Yeah.
what qualifications and experience do you feel will be of value for what you want to do, and what
In the future.
more
Yeah.
might you want to get?
Okay, I understand your question. I don't think there's any one answer to that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any one answer to that, definitely. However, thinking back to the 18-year-old Adam who first walked in the doors to Cláiste Dúlaigh and met Willie, Eleanor and all the other instructors at the time, were, you know, leaps and bounds apart. I'm the same person integrally. However, there has been a lot built upon that internal psyche and process, and that subjective thinking and, you know, ways of approaching different problems has been fostered by a lot of the goings on here, a lot of my jobs throughout the summer, a lot of hanging out with friends, professionals like yourself. So I think, to answer your question, the biggest thing that's going to benefit me going forward to this job currently and in the future is my internal processes and my confidence that I have gained through my study and continued practice of aiming to become an outdoor professional.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And like hard skills wise?
Hard skills?
Mm.
The rock climbing instructor, the RCI, definitely.
Cool.
The canoeing instructor, definitely. And powerboat and sailing instructor, definitely.
Okay. Are there any more instructorships you want?
I definitely want to progress and obtain my ML, my mountain leader, to then go on and become a mountain and climbing instructor, because I would like to bring people into the mountains for that kind of thing. So that's kind of a divergence from the bringing young people out and more looking at the educational side of things, which isn't completely focused on young people, but it can intertwine.
Okay.
So.
And with budgeting for like those plans specifically, and conflicts between your personal life and getting to those goals, can you talk a bit about that, or?
Could you ask me that question again?
So, how are you planning to budget, and like, I suppose, are there any personal conflicts holding you back from
So
maybe
there's
getting these
two
goals?
questions there.
Yeah.
There's two questions there. So we have the budgeting aspect and we have
Personal conflicts.
personal work-life balance.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that you asked them together because they are entwined, like everything in the slideshow. The personal work-life balance, I'm not sure. I'm still only coming to terms with understanding how to intertwine them. But definitely the scheduling is a big part of that. So
Okay.
forecasting what your month's going to look like, what weather's going to impact each activity, and what personal commitments, which is a big thing that I tend to forget. I could organise to go to dinner with friends, and then I'll put work on that day.
Okay.
And I let people down. So my personal life tends to suffer more than my work life.
Are there any personal conflicts keeping you in Ireland?
There's not, other than family situations at the moment. But
Okay.
if I really wanted to travel, I could make that commitment.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that I'm not ready to travel right now.
Okay.
But there are opportunities that I have looked at out there. And then moving on to your question about budgeting.
Budgeting, yeah.
Yeah. The new job that I'm about to transfer into from education to work, it's going to be a big learning curve there. Finally having to put my big boy pants on, I suppose. As yeah. That's going to be a regular income, so I will be able to afford my car insurance. I won't be worried about petrol. I won't be worried about training costs because I can ask the job to either subsidise or pay for training. And then the only other aspect of that, I suppose, is going to be scheduling. Again, we go back to scheduling.
Yeah.
But in terms of being concerned about how am I going to afford things, this new job is definitely going to allow me to save. I put money aside for different training opportunities, like booking the ML assessment, like travelling to different parts of the country and different parts of the British Isles. Pains me to say that. Different parts of the British Isles for the ML syllabus, so I can achieve that certificate, and that will allow me to pay for further training like the MCI, the mountain and climbing instructor once I pass that assessment. Timescale for them types of assessments, I'm not completely focused on them at the moment because of family situations. However, I have a year goal, and I do have a date written down in my big book of notions, as I mentioned, for them dates that I would like to have a plan put together to achieve them by.
Okay, cool.
Does that answer your questions, Emily?
Yes.
Do you have any more?
I don't.
Okay, I'm very happy for you to listen. Thanks, everybody.
Grand. Thank you, Adam.